In 1972, Colosseum saxophonist Dick Heckstall-Smith put out a solo album, A Story Ended, featuring an all-star cast of English jazz rock luminaries. And from that album, the epic track, The Pirate's Dream. And it must be noted that that great drum roll that kicked off this track is none other than Jon Hiseman, one of the most formidable English drummers of his generation.
See horses call to each other's wives, yeah. Then bring like eggs, slipping down the other side.
Some real gritty guttural vocals there from Chris Farlowe.
Around them the wind is screaming at the spray. Wow, we're sucking the sea and drowning out the day. Oh, out the tricycle, feather in black, boarding the company who won't be coming back. Launching on the wind, the fate of those below. Can't be our vengeance, no mercy will they show. Corkscrews face the teeth of the storm.
Notice all the tempo changes we've gone through and key changes and everything just...
Roll! Beckoning the things, putting away the cold. Sliding up rocks, diving down to the hole.
dig that real brisk, like jazzy chromatic bass line.
Thousand shatter unfaithful to the end. To the plan for saving his very best friend. Shot them and fights in their family for peace. Expecting a banquet, a dinner at the least.
Bass by Mark Clarke.
Say let's take Elvis to the mosque. Run out a biscuit and we're gonna down oh, Peter Jones has the locks on his
Guitar on this by Spedding, the ubiquitous one. Believe it or not, I was able to find the lyrics to this. Seahorses call to each other's wives, then break the eggs, slipping down the other side. Around them the wind is screaming at the spray, for soaking the sea and drowning out the day. Albatross circles feathered in black, mourning the comrade who won't be coming back, plotting on the wind the fate of those below. Hell-bent on vengeance, no mercy will they show. Corks full of menlings face the teeth of the storm. Let me take this apart here. Seahorses call to each other's wives, then break the eggs, slipping down the other side. Around them the wind is screaming at the spray, for soaking the sea and drowning out the... I do believe this is about maritime disaster or impending. Beckoning merthings putting away their coats, sliding off rocks, diving down to their homes, dolphins chatter on faithful to the end, each with a plan for saving his very best friend. Yeah. I believe, I'm going to have to assume that this is about a ship that's been sunk, but from the point of view of sea creatures. Or alternately, it could be about the thoughts of sea creatures trying to avenge marine life that has either been poached or like fished, gathered, netted, trying to plot revenge on the humans who come and invade their habitat. Song within a song. Yeah, Chris Spedding can really play these types of really angular, spiky bits when he wanted to anyway. Why did he become just a retro rockabilly guy? Graham Bond, yeah, on organ and Moog synthesizer. I wonder what sea creature these solos are supposed to represent. What kind of sea action this is supposed to embody. makes me think, in terms of like sea animation, what sea creature would a Moog, would this really kind of dirty Moog sound most resemble the mannerisms of? The octopus? Certainly not the shark. Okay, gotta catch up with some lyrics. I didn't read far enough. The shark had invited their families for a feast, expecting a banquet, a dinner at the least. Fear-crazy sailors cling helpless to the mast, run out of biscuit and the water will never last. Old Davy Jones oils the locks on his chest. And then the big lengthy solo, and then now resuming. The maker's quite deaf, after all he's very old. Those that haven't drowned are dying slowly of the cold. The time's drawing near, the timber will never last. Each wretch on board sees his whole life spinning past. Yeah, it's definitely the sailors there at the disadvantage here. Memories flood back like falling onto knives. Lovers, sons, sweethearts, but never, never wives. Down on their knees, they're praying for all they're worth, conjuring up words damn near forgot at birth. Eternal Father, strong to save. Yeah, it's about those thoughts that rush through sailors as they realize that they're about to go down with the ship, that they're not going to be returning home. And we do get a little bit the point of view of the marine life that gets to feast on human bodies.
The town's growing near, the timbers will never last. Oh, each of the boxes his whole are spinning there. Cause memories flood back like falling off the knives. Lovers and sweethearts, but never, never wives. Down on their knees, they pray for all their lives. Country of words, then the forgotten. But eternal Father, strong to save.
I love the way that Jon Hiseman just keeps on throwing all those like rolls and like kick drums and toms like against like he'll like throw like twice as many that you might as what you might expect into a single bar and just play against everything and just add so much thrust and momentum. And of course it just kind of almost forces the others along to like put more notes in and to just play to the utmost of their abilities, including Heckstall-Smith. all that dissonance. See, Chris, here, listen to Chris Spedding's like just discordant guitar sound right here. It's like he can get avant-garde if he wanted to. It's interesting. On this track, we basically have 2/3 of the lineup of Colosseum's third studio album, Daughter of Time, with Mark Clarke, Jon Hiseman, Dick Heckstall-Smith, and Chris Farlowe. And we have 3/4 of the Graham Bond organization, because we have Heckstall-Smith, of course, Jon Hiseman, and Graham Bond. Although Jon Hiseman wasn't on the two of one of the lineups anyway. The Graham Bond organization changed a lot. They also on the albums, actually, the drummer was Ginger Baker. I think Jon Hiseman was in a really early lineup. I'm not even sure if I think Jon Hiseman was in that band when John McLaughlin was in that band. The only time John McLaughlin was ever really in a rock band, before he went more kind of exclusively into jazz, and didn't kind of wander back kind of into rock until around 1970. And even then, just kind of on the border of rock, really. But yeah, his early exit from the rock scene kind of gave him more kind of hardcore jazz cred. Yeah. While the others kind of stayed in rock, went into blues rock, and then kind of crossed over, kind of stepped up to the borderline of jazz around the tail end of the 1960s. Yeah, that was Dick Heckstall-Smith with The Pirate's Dream from the 1970 album A Story Ended, featuring, yeah, all the big names of jazz rock in the UK up to that point. And yeah, is there anyone? The track was written by Heckstall-Smith, Jon Hiseman, and Clempson. Yeah, and Dick Heckstall-Smith on this track played tenor and soprano, saxophone, and he's credited with 2 different saxophones. I guess that may be in reference to his double. Sometime he was known to play 2 woodwinds simultaneously. And yeah, this would be this would be his only solo album for pretty much the next 20 years, unfortunately. But what an album it turned out to be. Yeah, this being right after Colosseum. The original Colosseum had folded, and several years before the nameplate was resurrected with a totally different lineup that didn't include him. That's a totally different story for another installment. Anyway, and I do think that the lyrics were quite intriguing in that they gave us some very striking metaphors of harrowing maritime spectacle and and yet manage to give sort of a comedic bent at times and portray it from both sides. Yeah. For more Rubies and Sapphires from the Dick Heckstall-Smith album, see the directory of albums by English D artists linked in the description below. And once you've seen that and flip through those pages, go over to the C directory in the alphanumerical list at the top to see the Colosseum albums, both Colosseums, yeah. Like and subscribe and follow me on social media, and leave a comment if there are any observations you have about the big epic that we just heard, the layers, the instrumentation, the lyrics, the singing, the counterpoint of it all, which solo was your favorite, which instrumentalist stood out to you. And until next time, this is Zaragon, the world's most ear travel trimaximalist, signing off.